What's up, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson here with Scottie Bordelon of Natty State Sports, and welcome to the pod at the Palace. Quite literally, the Palace. I mean, if we're going to do this thing, we got to do it right here from Bud Walton Arena after, man, I can't even think of a word to describe what we just watched in here, but Arkansas gets by Texas A&M in a wild one, 78-77. Tramon Mark is him. Wild, emotional night in this arena. It was a crazy game. 20-point lead blown. Looked like Wade Taylor put a dagger in the hog, but then Tramon Mark was the equalizer. Man, just Scottie, what are your thoughts after that one? I mean, that was intense.
I feel like from the time Arkansas started the second half slow, and Wade Taylor scored what was it, 13 of their first 14 second half 14 points. You could kind of see it coming a little bit. And then Devo gets, thrown out of the game for an F2. Chandler Lawson fouls out. Was that the only two guys that left in the second half? I think that's right. Yeah. Devo did a really, really good job tonight defensively. And when he went out, I mean, that's if you've got an ace defender, I guess, or a guy that you would prefer to stick on Wade Taylor, it's probably Devo. Devo did a really good job on him. He left the game, and then Wade Taylor's him too. Like he's a really good player preseason.
41.
Yeah, had 41. When was Antonio Reeves had 37 in here. That's right. Last March. Wade Taylor put up numbers tonight, but you're right. Wade, going back to Wade Taylor's shot for a second, it was like I knew that shot was going to go in when he took it. And I wasn't sure if Arkansas was going to be able to match it, but we knew who the ball was going to. And the way that T-Mark's night was going, maybe you had an inkling that it was going to go in, because you looked over at me, when Arkansas, it's A&M, so Wade Taylor hits the shot, A&M calls a timeout. Allows Arkansas to get organized. A&M is obviously, we think, coming out of a timeout, they're going to be organized defensively. They didn't deny T-Mark, which is crazy. T-Mark even said that himself. He was surprised they didn't deny him. And then he said he didn't really know what he wanted to get coming out of the timeout, but he saw something that he liked, bringing the ball up, got a bump, got to a spot that he liked, nailed it. Second game winner of his college career. He said he made one. He said a half court shot his freshman year at Houston, beat Memphis. So, I mean, is T-Mark the direction that this team's going offensively? Do you think?
I think he's got to be. I mean, he's definitely got to be the dude for this team right now. Yeah. Because if you really look at the starting lineups, the rotations, there's been so much shift and so much change. But really, and I know it's weird to say about the guy who didn't play in the game where Arkansas beat Duke of all teams, but. Yeah. He's kind of been the constant there, especially from an offensive standpoint, which is weird because coming in, we kind of thought of him as a defense first guy who could score for him. Yeah. But hey, Muss said he was an underrated offensive player. Well, yeah, he nailed that one, man, because he's been incredible as a go-to scorer. And now it's about finding the complementary pieces, right? To kind of play consistently around him. So I think my two biggest takeaways were right out of the gate. One, Arkansas went back to the OG starting lineup. They used the first 3 games of the season with L. Ellis getting a look. He hasn't been playing much. Devo back in there, Tramon and TB and Chandler Lawson, who we haven't seen much. Yeah, I thought those guys really set the tone well for Arkansas. I think they got out to a 10-3 start before they started making some subs there. Mm-hmm. That was a good-looking group. It sounded like Muss after the game was saying he wanted to get some experience in there. For sure. Has it with some seniors in L and Chandler Lawson. And Lawson's stats didn't necessarily pop that much, but I thought he was huge for him, kind of playing that middle slot as a passer and distributor. And then obviously, L. Ellis off the milk carton and back on the floor. So, hey, he wasn't perfect. Was he 3 of 10, 3 of 11 from the floor? But, man, he had 15 points.
8 of 8 at the line. I think that was huge.
And wasn't turning it over down the stretch. Right. He had the ball in his hands there. So maybe that's the lineup they roll with moving forward. We thought that before, and then they come out the next game and it's flat. Next thing you know, you're 12 deep in the bench wondering what's going on. So consistency seems like it's going to have to be the key.
I mean, we talked a lot about, on the pregame pod at the Palace, is this team going to show any life or show signs of life? Plural signs of life. Like on the surface, it's just like, does this team, can it find any kind of fight. Like, are they going to fight? Are they going to battle scrap? And then, I think other signs of life are L. Ellis, just coming up really, really big. Like the kid hadn't been a huge part of what this team's been doing, for better or worse, really since that Greensboro game, man. He had the one game against Duke, and then after that, it kind of faded into the background again. And then Chandler Lawson was a guy that I think you talked about a little bit today, maybe on John's show. He was big, dude, and I think I tweeted one time during the game, and it was, A&M was soft trapping. I don't know if soft trapping is the right word, but they were trapping the ball handlers in ball screen actions, and the screener could just simply, maybe slip or maybe it's what time? It's 12:45 in the morning, so I don't know what I'm really doing here.
I'm following you though.
But Chandler Lawson in the middle of the floor was phenomenal passing the ball. He was great. I had him. I think he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 8 potential assists tonight, 4 actual. Those 8 potential assists led the team. Yeah. And, I think he found Devo for a bucket. He hit TB for a lob. He hit somebody else for a big 3. And then Mekhi Mitchell also had an assist, passing out of the middle of the floor. Arkansas's bigs, they got 5 assists passing out of the middle of the floor tonight, or at least 4. Those guys were really big, and I think Arkansas knocked down shots too. That always helps. Helped Arkansas build a really big lead. But those guys finding others and then making shots, I thought that was a great way to start the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're right, Arkansas knocking down shots, that's a sight for sore eyes because we thought that they had turned the corner offensively, and then man, through 3 games of SEC play, like it's been rough. Like it's just been rough and choppy waters for those guys. And then also maybe they found something defensively in terms of just playing with some grit and some tenacity and some physicality that we haven't seen, which is really nice. And in fairness, I also think they caught a Texas A&M team who was coming off of a huge win, an emotional win at home.
They were sleepy to start the game, man, big time. Bro, I think they had, 1 score in their first 8 possessions?
Yeah. And I think what they look like to me, I mean, have you ever seen that many air balls? In a game, like they looked to me like they had a team lift or like they had a push-up competition in the hotel, before the team meal or something, and they were just out there chucking it. Yeah. And obviously, they figured some things out in the second half, especially Wade Taylor. But whatever, like sometimes teams aren't going to shoot that well, but you've got to take advantage of it. And Arkansas hasn't done that this year, and they did tonight. And even though they lost that 20-point lead and they kind of coughed it up there, they found a way to win, and that's what we were talking about earlier today. Who cares? Like if it's pretty, if it's aesthetically pleasing or whatever, they just got to get back in the win column and get some confidence. I thought Muss brought up a really good point where he said that Arkansas needed to lead a game from start to finish because their confidence has been rattled by some of these losses. Yeah. And we kind of saw them pucker up a little bit when adversity struck in this one, but they led for 38 minutes or however many seconds in this game. They needed that. They found a way. They kind of remembered how to win again, and we'll see if they can build up.
Yeah, I was encouraged by some of the defensive performances tonight, and something I've done for a long time is track shots defended for each guy, and T-Mark and we can talk forever about how great offensively T-Mark was and how big that game winner was, but defensively tonight I think he played like the guy that Eric talked about in the preseason. It was like, hey, I can put this guy with Devo and these 2 guys can be a hell of a defensive tandem. This is obviously, it's very unofficial. I'm tracking it live, but I had Tramon Mark giving up 3 buckets on 16 shots defended.
Wow.
I mean,
and scoring 35
and scoring 35. I mean, if that's not well-rounded, man. The only thing that he didn't do tonight was get an assist, but I had him with 6 potential assists. Guys just didn't knock down shots that he set up.
I'm really glad to hear that he had 6 potential assists because I didn't know the ball left his hands unless it was a shot. Yeah. So I like that. I like to hear that a lot. No, that's phenomenal. It's really good to see that, man, because we thought that was going to be the, Mark and Devo, that was going to be the defensive tandem. And it seems like maybe, if they can start to do it together more often and consistently, and that's going to be the key for them. Mm-hmm. But maybe they're going to be able to get that, and that'll be huge for them.
I mean, it's not like it's, and I want to say this too. Devo gave up unofficially 3 buckets on 12 shots defended.
That's great.
And so those 2 guys give up 6 buckets on 5, 10, 15, 20. 25, 28 shots. That's really good. It's not like you did that against Vanderbilt. You did that against guys like Tyrese Radford and Wade Taylor. Wade Taylor made his shots, obviously, but
how many attempts did he have? 32 shot attempts?
32
Is that what
shot
it was?
attempts. I mean, I think that's the most by an Arkansas opponent, maybe in an SEC game. I believe that's right. Because the previous record was 28, and Wade Taylor's just like, he's flying past.
We were sitting up here on press row talking about it like he's having a JD note taking.
Yes,
like just super inefficient, but he's getting a ton of points.
Yeah, he's putting those shots up.
It was crazy. And I want to go back to L for just a second, because one thing Muss said in the press conference that really stuck with me is they were putting in a new play or a set or running something, whatever it was, and he didn't call out 5 guys to come out there. They were going to run it, but he didn't call out the 5 guys, and then L ran out on the floor and stepped in with that first group, and he had kind of made the decision that he was going to start him before
just inserted himself.
But to see that want to and that desire, that's really important, man, because this has not been easy for him. And anybody who's been listening to me knows that I've kind of been an L. Ellis honk, where I say, just let him play through some mistakes. He's gonna have some turnovers. He's not going to be efficient all the time, but if you let him rock, Arkansas usually plays pretty good ball. I thought he played well tonight, and I'm sure he had some breakdowns here and there, but on the defensive end of the floor, I'm not sure that he really stood out to me in a negative way. I'm
going to keep going with these shots defended right now. I love this. Unofficially, L. Ellis gave up 2 buckets on 10 shots defended. If L. Ellis can do that, I mean, you take pretty consistently. I mean, one of the reasons I think he's not on the floor is defense. And I remember when I wrote his kind of a commitment analysis, what to expect from L. Ellis. And I remember a quote from maybe an old Louisville coach that was like, it amazes. I think the coach said, it amazes me how slow his feet move on defense, especially when you watch him with the ball in his hands on the offensive end. It just didn't compute, I guess. Sure. But because he could not defend at Louisville and still stay on the floor, you know what I'm saying? But it's a non-negotiable. Yeah, it seems to be here, even though this team's kind of stunk defensively for the most part of the season. But L was really good tonight. You'll take L forcing 10 misses or 8 misses out of 10 shots any day of the week. And I potential assists, I had him with 6, and he assisted on 2 of maybe the bigger 3-point makes that Arkansas had tonight. Maybe gave them, I think one of them put Arkansas up 10 again. Maybe it was to T Mark, or maybe it was to Devo. One for Devo definitely put him up 10. Yeah. That was a big play from him, just drive and kick. Like, L's really good at driving and kicking. Sometimes he can get himself in trouble because he always leaves his feet to make passes on drives under the basket. It worked out for him that time. It led to a big bucket for Devo. So shout out to L. He played his tail off tonight. He did. Yeah. And I kind of like what they had going on. Again, we talked about the starting lineup a little bit. But Mackay and Graham, those guys didn't play too much. It helped Arkansas tonight that Henry Coleman didn't play. It definitely for Texas A&M, because they wound up being super small, especially once the big fellow Wildens Leveque. Yeah. Once he fouled out, they really didn't have anybody to turn to there, so they were kind of playing some small forwards at center and going small, and that played into Arkansas's favor. Still gave up 19 offensive rebounds, but I was just about to look for that number. Yeah, I think it was 19 offensive rebounds. I don't know how many second chance points, but honestly, had they cleaned that up, they still would have won this game going away. A&M had 25 second chance points. Yeah, I mean, there you go. So definitely still some things that they've got to figure out there. I like Davenport coming off the bench. I thought he provided a really nice spark for him. Until L really started getting going in the second half, I was just like, I kept looking at stat broadcast, and I'm like, T Mark's getting up there 15, 16, 17, close to 20 points, and there's Jeremiah Davenport second on the team and scoring with 8. Yeah. I mean, those buckets that he hit were massive. Huge early buckets there, and they came in a flurry, and that's something he's capable of doing without playing a ton of minutes, and I think that's going to be beneficial for him. Keon Minifield, he didn't score a ton. He didn't do a lot, but he was out there, and I noticed him when he was out there. Yeah. And he plays at a different pace. You mentioned it when we were talking about it pregame, how if Arkansas needs a guy to up the speed and change the pace and the tempo, he's the guy that can do it. Yeah. So I like seeing him out there, but let me ask you this, because we've seen so much change. We were on John's show, and one of the questions he asked earlier was, what is it going to be that gets Arkansas to turn this thing around? Like, what would it be? And something I said was, maybe the message was finally received. Yeah. Where, a lot of these guys, some guys who really contributed tonight, got benched at Florida,
and guys like Blocker and Pinion stepped in, and it put a little bit of heat on them. And Musk mentioned that after the game. Do you think they fall back into some old habits? Are you buying or selling where they're at right now, I guess, with this rotation? And do you feel like there's a missing ingredient? I think I know what you're going to say here.
I mean, I'm not ready to say that they're back yet, but I'm eager to see what this team does with a little bit of momentum going into the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think South Carolina's having a great year to this point where they lost at home to Georgia tonight, though. Is that right?
Yeah. They were winning late in that game, but I think that, they lost.
Yeah,
by 4
that's
or 5.
a tough one for them. Where they're like 14-3 this year. I think that's obviously it's a very winnable game here. I just want to see how this team handles a little bit of success again. They hadn't had any this year.
It's crazy.
They hadn't had any this year.
They haven't had any. Not only have they not had any in the Natty State sports era until tonight, which just so happened to be their first game. They're 1-0 since we got launched. But yeah, in 2024, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and it's not like we're early. I mean, it's Wednesday, January 17th in the morning right now.
It is.
16 days is what it was. Going into the calendar year, it's not like it's just been a week or 3 days or something. Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
But going back to your point about the team getting the message, I mentioned too, I think on the show, it's not like we're waiting on a young team to grow up. We're just like waiting on experienced guys to just kind of like get it, like just for it to click. Maybe I don't want to make too much of one game, but maybe that is, what we saw. And, L, every time that he's in there, he's always, really level headed. Like I'm going to be ready whenever my name is called.
Yeah.
He finally got some extended run. We saw tonight what could be behind some extended minutes. It's like an 8 for 8, 9 at the line, 15 points and 6 boards. I mean, L can do that.
I'm glad you brought up the rebounds. I
think that was a career high or tied it at least.
The only thing I wonder, going forward with the rotation. And I like some of the guys that they got going on right now, but Caleb Battle, like where are we at with that? It's just so bizarre to me because and I know that you beat the drum to death too, but man, the guy was just a walking bucket. He was giving Arkansas 20-point plus games over and over and over, and even when the shots weren't falling, he was the guy that you could put the ball in his hands. He could get to the free throw line, took a little bit of pressure off of a guy like Tramon Mark.
For sure,
offensively, and he's disappeared. I mean, he was a coach's DMP tonight.
You didn't miss him tonight,
and exactly. And Arkansas looked,
which is probably it's probably not a scary thing. Like he's probably thinking, man, I got to get it together behind closed doors.
Exactly, and I wonder if that's going to be the case. It's going to be a deal where maybe they found something and they move on. Without him. Or is he going to get the message? Is it going to be received from him like it was some of these other guys, in this building tonight?
I do know that when I was coming back up here from the post game, T Mark is on the court doing an interview with Coach Z, and I think it's Chandler Lawson and Caleb Battle were standing there, and Caleb is just clapping his hands, and I mean, probably playing around with T Mark because he's the man of the hour or the man of the night or whatever. Cheering his guys on. I mean, maybe that's an indication that maybe he still is engaged, even though he's not been a part at all really of these last couple of games.
Right. And that's a really good point. He had that body language throughout the whole game too.
Yeah, it was good.
And all those guys did. I put myself in the shoes of maybe Layden or Joseph, who kind of stepped up for Arkansas at Florida, and then Layden might have got in for a couple seconds or something, but those guys didn't have a role tonight.
Yeah.
And they were up and they were engaged. And it seemed like from out of nowhere, these guys kind of came together. And hopefully, they can stick that way because that's the kind of stuff that you need, because one of the biggest issues for them has been just being disconnected.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they don't like each other, they don't get along, but there's just something that's not clicking. The mesh hasn't been there, but they struck me as a team tonight, and they haven't, quite honestly, for the last 3 or 4 games.
I mean, I can't, Curtis, I can't tell you the last time I tracked potential assists and I had to write so many down. You know what I'm saying? Like L had 6, Devo had a couple, T Mark had 6, TB had 1, Chandler Lawson had 8, Keon Minifield had 3, Mekhi Mitchell had 1. I mean, that's sharing the basketball. The ball movement tonight I thought was really good, and it's been it just hasn't been, when we've watched them, kind of watched them from afar, I guess. Even like that Florida game, they just were not sharing the ball, was sticking too much, and maybe a little bit of hero ball in there, but ball movement can get you out of some hero ball stuff, and if you're sharing the sugar a little bit, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%, man. And so, now Arkansas, we're going to see if they can kind of build off of that momentum a little bit. They got a big one coming up on Saturday with South Carolina coming into Bud Walton Arena. You mentioned it, they took that loss tonight, but they've been rolling, man. I mean, we heard Lamont Paris at SEC Media Days, and he was kind of thanking people for saying, hey, like,
they're picking them last. Yeah,
they're picking us last, man. Like, you guys, nobody would finish where you picked them last year, and we feel like we're better. And they've really proved that. I mean, 14-3, I don't know if they got a bunch of quality wins or not, but hey, when you got that kind of record at this stage in the season, you're pretty good, and you're feeling yourself. But this is a game Arkansas's got to win at home.
Sure.
Like, if you're gonna make a dent in this thing and start slowly grinding your way out of the the hole that you dug, this is a game that you got to win if you're Arkansas. And I know that this is going to be a tough team, a physical team. They typically are with South Carolina, but they got a stud too. And I know you like to talk about him.
I like Meechie Johnson a lot.
He's a baller, man.
Arkansas's like bare minimum got to hold serve at home. Like maybe you can allow yourself one slip up, but then you got to go make up for it with maybe stealing another game on the road. You know what I mean? Because road wins are super valuable, but this team's got to hold serve at home. And I would imagine, even though Arkansas did cut it really close tonight, like let a 20-point lead slip and needed a game winner to get out of there with a win. We talked about it earlier today. It's like you've got to get past the point of caring what it looks like.
Yes.
I mean, Eric is going to talk to those guys ad nauseum, I would imagine, the next couple of days, just about how, guys, we can't let that lead slip away. Just can't do it. Find things to correct there. But yeah, you're way past the point of caring how it looks. Like a win is a win at this point. And you're just thankful that T-Mark could deliver for you. But Saturday's got the potential, I think, to be pretty fun. Again, one game, but I think, you beat a team like Texas A&M that's got some guys. I think that gets people excited a little bit, maybe just like cautiously optimistic. I think that's probably
it raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, that's probably the way to approach it. But I think the weather clears out of Fayetteville, the roads clear up, all that stuff. I think you'll have a really fun crowd on Saturday.
I think so too. Yeah, people are going to show up for a Saturday home game at Bud anyway. And you're right, but you build on a little bit of momentum. They took a step in the right direction tonight. You can't do the 2 steps back thing,
right?
But they build on that, get a win against South Carolina, and all of a sudden, you're looking at a team, still a lot of work to do, but they'd be 11-7, 2-3. They get a little bit of momentum, and people would be excited about things going into who they have the following week.
Yeah,
They're on the road at Ole Miss, which is going to be a game people are excited about anyway because of the Chris Beard factor.
For sure.
And maybe they're playing with a little bit of fool's gold, Ole Miss. But knock on wood, it's a one game at a time deal.
For sure.
If they get through that, and then you kind of set yourself up with some momentum, you got Kentucky coming to town, then that's when you can really start talking about getting back on track and maybe just, working your way, inching back towards that bubble conversation. We were talking about on the post-game reaction show earlier about going to Phoenix for the Final Four and things like that. Dude, send me to Dayton for the first 4 at this point. I don't care. I just want the postseason, man. Like I just like to get them to, to make it that way we can, get the experience again.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get too excited about it yet because every time this team gets me going a little bit and I'm all in, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, they let me down. And every single year, though, I tell myself, I'm not going to get to the point where I'm out on this team. I'm not going to bail on them. I'm not going to do it. Man, it feels different this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to get it turned around this year. And they get me to that breaking point, which they did after this Florida game. They finally got me again. They put together a performance like this, and you let it start to creep back in your head again. You think, you know what? They do got some dudes.
Yeah.
They do got Eric Musselman. Maybe they will figure this thing out. At least there's something for us to be excited about and talk about.
Yeah, that's what when we did Top Tuesday on John's shows. Like my second reason that I think Arkansas could get it turned around is they've got some offensive firepower, and you saw it to start the game. And then T-Mark's got a pro bag, Curtis, and that's like we've seen him both times live and in person when he's gone for 30 plus.
Yeah,
I mean the dude can score with the best of them.
They had nothing for him.
No, they had nothing for him. And then, I think another thing I said was like, I think I'm past the point of like believing that this team can like kind of grow defensively. And then, I think there's only like two or three guys on the team that gave up more than 2 buckets on however many shots defended. You got
A&M shoots 32% from
some
the field,
great defensive performances. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes all you got to do is speak it into existence, and, reality does some weird things, I guess.
Exactly. Well, man, this has been fun. It's 1:00 in the morning here. This will go out a little bit later today, but better get out
just
here.
Just a little bit later today.
They might turn the lights out on us if we don't get out of here soon, but it wouldn't be right to do the first official pod at the Palace unless we were in the Palace for it.
Yeah, had to do that.
I got to tell you though, man, honestly, have always really appreciated your work and have always wanted the opportunity to work with you. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
For me, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, what'd be really cool is if you and Scottie were working together and did some things together, and here we are. So I'm really, really excited about this and everything we got going on at Natty State Sports right now.
Yeah, man, I'm going to echo what you said. And I said it yesterday on Monday when John's show started, and we were having some audio issues. But I feel like me and you have gotten close. Me and you and John went to Niagara Falls in Buffalo a couple of NCAA tournaments ago, and I feel like that's kind of when we got pretty tight. And then obviously we've traveled to Buffalo to San Francisco, and then Des Moines to Las Vegas, and then we've gone we literally went to the Bahamas together.
That's right.
In November. Where else have we gone? I mean, it's just, I feel like we've traveled all over the place, and I've admired you for a long time, and you're a brilliant basketball mind and writer, and you get your points across a lot more eloquently than I do. But I'm so pumped to be doing this with you, man. It's honestly couldn't pass it up. Pass it up, and I'm pumped to be doing this, and hopefully it's just the first episode, and the start of something really cool.
Yeah, we're gonna keep getting better and better, and it's gonna continue to grow. And echo everything you said too. Really appreciate it. We're super, super excited about it. But listen, me and Scottie, people understand we're the basketball guys. Okay, so what we need is for this team to continue to progress. That way, we have something interesting to talk about. You can't go bailing out yet, and going all in on Andrew Ellis for baseball. He's going to kill it for that, but we still need you here for a couple more months before portal season. So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but appreciate everybody who checks this out. It's been the Pod at the Palace. Curtis Wilkerson, Scottie Bordelon, Natty State Sports, and we'll catch you guys soon.